Hello Sentinels, and by that I mean people that have adult ADHD, and my name is Gavin Redman, and this is an episode about perception. Now, ADHD is one of the things, it is a mental disorder, and in some families and organisations, mental disorders are a very difficult thing to accept, so they're perceived differently than everybody else. It's easy if you have cancer or you break a leg or you have some sort of injury. A doctor can actually see that and everybody else can too, and that is accepted. But mental disorders are something that people have problems with. They don't necessarily actually deal with people who have mental disorders because they can't necessarily see there's something wrong with them. It's inside your head. So how's that happen? Well, basically, a lot of the time, people tend to not get diagnosed, even though they actually know they have the symptoms, they've heard of the actual disorder itself, and they just never get that sorted. They go through life, and I've seen it a lot in the last 20 odd years, where people actually, I can see quite blatantly and obviously that they have ADHD or ADD, or perhaps even mild forms of bipolar or OCD, and they don't actually get properly diagnosed. Now, if you don't actually get diagnosed, that means you can't get the right treatment, and if you can't get the right treatment, especially when you're growing up as a younger person, that can make life very difficult. And also, you don't really know what the pros and cons are, all the different treatments that are out there, and what you can actually do about it. Now, that applies the same for somebody who is an adult. Even more so if you actually have a family, have people that rely on you, are looking to you for support. And I think this is one of those perceptual things. It's the one thing that you can't control as such, something that is outside of you. Now, perception is basically, as far as in my experience, it's everything. It's the thing that makes a difference. So how you perceive your condition is then how you make your decisions, how you react to it, how you deal with others with regard to it, and that includes your family, your friends, your job, the jobs you choose, the professions you choose, maybe if you go to university or not, or decide to go into a profession. Now, that is something that's fundamental, so it should be the one thing I would encourage you to do if you think you have ADHD or ADD or some sort of mental condition. They're not necessarily always permanent. Just to give you the stats on this, it's 2/3 of the people that have ADHD when they're younger tend to then have it when they're older, but there's still a third that don't. So it would be ridiculous not to go out and get properly diagnosed, but also not to know whether it's just something that you think is in your head, or whether it's actually the real thing, because the real thing is completely different than just having one or two of the symptoms for a period of time, or it happens to be part of your character. There is a difference between proper ADHD and being diagnosed as such. That means you have all of the symptoms, at least 4 or 5 of them, which I can drop a list into this actual post to make sure that's clear what they are. And you've got to have them over a period of time. That means the diagnosis itself, it's not just go to the doctor once or go to a psychologist once and then they'll be able to tell you whether you've got ADHD. It takes a certain amount of time, at least 2 or 3 visits, without a shadow of a doubt. And if that wasn't the case, then more than likely you've been wrongly diagnosed. For the simple fact, it's the actual symptoms themselves have to be recurring, and they have to be over a period of time. They do say 6 months, but quite frankly, if you're older, I'd say it should be even longer than that. So that we should actually make sure that is the case. And if you have it, then you have to own it. You have to basically accept it. You need to basically be accountable to yourself, because if you don't own a part of your own character, that can cause some serious problems going forward. And your personal relationships, your life, your friends, family, all the other stuff, it can be absolute train wreck, and it can basically knock your whole life off track because you're not accepting a part of yourself. And in my opinion, it's the one thing you need to do is accept who you are and accept what you are, and then you can move forward. You have an opportunity to deal with it. It's not the end of the world. There are ways of doing it. I think the methods that they've proved over the last 20 years actually help with regard to ADHD. And that means things like social connection, peer support, exercise, and rituals, rest, rhythms, accountability, that type of thing. You can put those things into your life on a daily basis, make that part of the standard that you live by, and it can improve your life to the point where you're actually better than the people without it. There is also the thing that people say is that ADHD is the CEO's disease, in quotes. It isn't a disease, but there you go, it's a disorder. But and it can't be that bad. And I suggest you go out and take a look at some of the successful people. Richard Branson, Will Smith, to name just a couple of the men that I know of. And there's plenty of women out there too. The thing is, if you can't accept who you are to begin with, you can't then deal with who or what you are. And that means that when it comes to making those all-important cognitive decisions you need to do, which is basically the things that allow you to plan to have a future, you won't be able to do that because you're not equipped with all the facts. You don't know what, you don't necessarily know or haven't been informed what you actually have. And also, you might not have it at all. Okay, with that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and have a plan, be fun, foster wisdom wherever you see it. If you like the channel, please like or tick the box, hit the bell, allow the alerts to come through on YouTube, and as always, have a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, wherever you may be. And I will see you again, as always, tomorrow. Bye-bye.